Hello and welcome to Crowbar Kernel Panic, the podcast at the intersection of Linux and gaming. This is episode 19, and we are live streaming to YouTube at the Crowbar Kernel Panic YouTube channel. Please give that a subscribe, like, and subscribe. You can send us emails at crowbarkernelpanic@pm.me, and you can join us on Discord. I'll leave a link to that in the show notes, but we hang out over at the Mintcast Discord. Also, check out. Hey, I did it! I did the Arch install video. We didn't talk about that before going in here, but I finally did it. It was a little difficult because I came down with a sinus infection that day. It was like I can't remember. Oh, it was Black Friday. I was planning. I was planning to do like a Black Friday live stream. I was planning to that's how I'll celebrate Black Friday because I don't go shopping. I'll just come in the morning and I'll just get up early and we'll do an early morning Arch install live stream.
An early morning Arch install. What do you do in your morning grind?
Yeah, right.
Arch.
Dude, Black Friday, they got great deals. Arch is always free. And so I just thought that'll be the perfect Black Friday deal is if I just do an Arch installation live on stream. But the sinus infection really wasn't feeling it. I didn't feel like talking. I did feel like installing Arch because I'd been struggling. I'd been like really struggling with some stuff, and I just wanted to go ahead and like do a new install and fix some things. But I didn't feel like trying to be witty and be on camera. So I recorded my entire installation, and then I went back and I recorded commentary over top of it later. Which I don't know. In hindsight, I probably spent as much time doing the commentary as if I had just went ahead and just did if I had just waited, I could have installed Ubuntu or something to get me by. And then whenever I was over the sinus infection, then do the live stream. I probably should have just done that in hindsight because, I don't know. It ended up taking me so long to edit the commentary portion of the video versus just talking
next month's install when this month's install doesn't work anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
To be honest though, I did not watch your video and I plan to. I just haven't had a chance to. I haven't watched YouTube in it's been a while. Well, I did watch one video with my wife and that was it. And that was with one of our little YouTube videos we watch, but other than that, I haven't watched YouTube in like a long time.
That's why you're not running Arch, man. You should have watched my video. You'd be running Arch right now.
I don't think so.
You went back to Fedora.
I did.
Well, I think later in this episode we're going to do our distribution tier list, and so you'll have your chance to decide if Fedora really reigns supreme over the rest of the list.
I don't know. It's pretty good.
I have a strong feeling that it might be the one. So you want to get into some news first off? Right off the bat? You have you put in here right at the top Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I recognize this this title. This is it's like a D&D-esque Borderlands type thing.
Yep.
I watched like a promo for it, but I didn't really look into it much. Is it like a DLC or something, or this is like a whole standalone title?
It's like a standalone. It's a standalone title. It's a spin-off of Borderlands.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a spin-off. It's not like there's no like tie into the main story or anything like that. It's just like extra content, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a full-fledged game. It's not like... to be honest, I don't know a whole ton about it. Actually, Joe mentioned it to me, and I was just kind of like, okay, that's a good thing, because this is a Linux game, so I'm assuming it's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
They've all been good. I really do like Borderlands, to be honest. Me and my friends used to play it all the time.
Yeah.
But I just fell out of it, so...
I did the Borderlands thing, probably Borderlands 2 is the one I played. At like LAN parties. Like it was like a LAN party game for a little while.
That was a big LAN thing.
Yeah. And it is really cool. And it's really cool that it's a Linux native install. You don't have to run on Proton or anything like that.
Yep. And it works. It's not like a crappy Linux native port. It's not even a port. It's actually a build. So it's pretty nice. I do like that.
It was like before I mean, I guess Team Fortress was a thing, but it was before. What's the Blizzard game that's like a first-person shooter, but you sort of have an element of RPGs. Oh God, I can't. It's blanking on me. I don't like play any Blizzard games anymore, and so like their titles.
I don't play many at all, so
I can picture.
I'm not sure.
I can picture the gorilla dude. Oh my gosh, everybody knows this. Oh my gosh, can't believe it's slipping my mind right now. This is 35 years right here. Things just start falling out. But yeah, this was like a early, like it's more RPG focused, and you like sort of, I think you even like level up, like you have like a leveling system for your character. I know that your guns and items in the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you have a leveling system. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can modify your guns and all that stuff, and you pick a different not category, a different type of
Oh
player.
yeah, right. You have like different classes and things. Yeah.
Right. There's specific people in the game, and you just pick them. You don't create your own character.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about this one. I don't know how this one's going to work, but I do know that that's how normal Borderlands works.
Yeah.
Obviously, this one's going to be a D&D style, so it's going to be quite different than the original.
The like clip for it has like rolling giant dice and stuff. Like it's pretty wild looking.
It's kind of like I want to say it's kind of like that new game that came out not too long ago that had all the problems originally. Now I can't think of the game.
Why are we slipping titles?
Man, this is bad tonight. Ah, crap! That the it was specifically D&D, but the one that split off of D&D, it's like D&D before they changed it.
Pathfinder?
Yes,
Pathfinder. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of. I guess it's gonna be kind of like that, except for it's gonna be more like, I guess, cartoonish. I guess because that's how they've always been with Borderlands. It's been a little more on the cartoonish side, like looking at least.
They do the cell shaded thing.
Cell shaded, and I love like, to be honest, that's like my ultimate like favorite kind of game. Now I understand some games need to be real, like they need to look real.
Yeah.
But man, when they do a cell shaded game, right? Man, it looks so good.
Yeah,
like, I still say Wind Waker was my favorite cell shaded game. It does
look really good. Yeah,
I don't care what anyone says.
I don't like pixelated, like we were talking about before, like pixelated. How sometimes it seems lazy, like you're.
Yes.
Or maybe it's an accessibility thing. It's not always like laziness, but you think about like going from like a pixelated style game to a even cell shaded 3D game is like leaps and bounds as far as like what it takes to make a game. So a lot of indie developers stay in this kind of like low res kind of area.
Right.
And but cell shaded is a very stylized way to present your game, but yet it doesn't give off that same kind of like lack of accessibility kind of issue that
especially
I find
not with Borderlands. I mean, they have detail on their characters. I mean, they do great lighting, and I mean they have like the little like wrinkles in your clothing. Like, man, it's pretty nice. I do like Borderlands.
There's a saying in like art, like traditional art, color gets all the credit, but value does all the work. I think whenever it comes to games like this that have like the low res kind of style to them, I think that as long as they have really good physics and like particle physics and like lighting physics, as long as they have all of that stuff, like that can do so much work that
Come on, they got to have ray tracing.
It doesn't matter how low res or low poly count, as long as they have those physics right, then it feels modern.
Right.
So Square-Enix suspends sales of Final Fantasy 14. So
ouch.
Yeah, so this is not like a directly all right, so this is not directly Linux gaming related. This is obviously about Final Fantasy 14, but one, I play Final Fantasy 14, so that's why it's important for this show. But two,
exactly.
Almost every Linux gamer I know plays Final Fantasy 14 because it runs so well on Proton. Like, it runs better on Proton than it does on Windows. Like, I swear to that. It's usually the first thing I install is ESO, and then after that is Final Fantasy 14. And it's gotten even better because now when you used to have to install it and then kind of jump through some hoops to make some changes. Now just install that bad boy. Proton will do the work. It'll work from there. I promise you. But the downside is, if you've tried to log in the last like 3 or 4 days, or even the last like 2 weeks, you basically can't log in. You're in like a huge queue because the game is so popular now, and they just released.
Oh yeah.
They just released a new expansion, and it's so extremely popular that like you are in like a huge queue. You'll wait for hours waiting to get in the game.
That happened to Splitgate when they got their big like boost in users.
And it's crazy. It's such a good like problem to have, though, right? Like, wouldn't you love to be a developer that like you like people are just like begging to get into your game? They can't. They're literally standing in virtual lines, waiting to get in.
Yeah, and not leaving either. They're staying like for hours and hours. Well, it's like that'd be awesome.
I've been waiting to log in, but like what I've been doing is, I like launch the game. I see how far back in the queue I am, and if it just seems impossible, I just give up. I'm not waiting, you know. But today, I started it. I worked from home today, and so I went ahead and started it and sat in the queue like during my work hours, so that whenever I was done with work, I would be like closer to the front of the queue. I waited through like 2,000 people, so
that's like before you leave for work, you put it in the queue, and when you come home, you're like logged in. You're like,
yeah. This is exactly how it was, and I remember doing that back in the day for World of Warcraft 2 for one of their expansions that did this. But this is a cool thing because they're really good. They're a really good company. I think that they have proven that they pay attention to their players. They do a lot. They take a lot of feedback. And this is kind of an example of that. So what they're doing is they're worried that people are going to buy the game, and then immediately they're going to, because you got to buy the game and then buy the expansion, and then you try to log in and it's impossible. And they don't want people to have that feel bad experience, and so they're basically they've cut it off. You cannot buy the base game, and you can't buy like the collector's edition of the base game. You can still buy the expansion, and I actually bought the expansion today. That's another thing too, is like I was not max level, so I really didn't need the expansion yet. But I went ahead and purchased it today just to see if I could, and I knew I was eventually going to buy it. And you can buy the expansion. So if you're already an existing player, then you can buy the expansion and wait in the queue. But they just don't want that experience for like brand new players, and it also just means that there's just more people that are in the queue and making it larger. So they're kind of taking this financial hit, but to try to have a better experience for the new purchasers. So, and I think also today the queue was much lighter than it was yesterday. And if you're an MMO player, like if you're an MMO player, you're not new to this problem. Like this happens to like every time there's a new expansion, every time there's a new MMO that comes out, like they almost always have this problem. And like I said, it's a good problem to have. And I think this is interesting the way this company is, in particular, is handling it.
Yeah. At least it's not handling it like Blizzard.
They have been
they've had some they've had some bad press going on. Yeah, I won't get into that.
So I can't. I'm still blanking on the name of that damn game. Valve reduces the size of steamOS on the Steam Deck by 10 gigs.
Whoa.
So the Steam Deck
must be that Arch background or
yeah, that's what they got. That's what they got from switching from Ubuntu to Arch or whatever they did. I think that happened like a way long time ago. But
oh yeah.
So I read this article on TechSpot. I'll have it linked in the show notes. I'm sure that the original announcement article would have more details, or maybe it doesn't. I'm not sure. But in this article, they don't really describe what they cut in order to make this work. But what I imagine is they know that the hardware in the Steam Deck is not going to change. So they can probably cut out a lot of things that are on that
blow.
Right, yeah, they exist for other hardware, for other scenarios that they know that their product is never going to be in, so they were able to just cut that.
Hey, that's great. Anytime I hear them cut stuff like that that's unnecessary is really good, because then you just have less security vulnerabilities and less loading for the system, when you got to boot up.
Yeah,
Not that it takes that long anymore, but
The only thing it makes me think of is what if I wonder if these reductions will be utilized in the non Steam Deck SteamOS. Like if they cut based on the idea that we're never going to have this hardware in a Steam Deck, then we don't need it. Then these cuts won't translate to a non Steam Deck SteamOS.
I don't think so, because they'd be shooting themselves in the foot. It'd be like taking Ubuntu and saying, "Oh, I'm gonna take out all this proprietary crap." Oh, wait, we have Debian. we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be like shooting themselves in the foot. And as far as this article says, it says on the Steam Deck specifically. So
Yeah,
I'm thinking that it's definitely going to be just on the Steam Deck, not SteamOS itself. Another thing that's funny is I love in this picture they're playing Stardew Valley.
yeah, they are. That's funny.
I actually just got into that game, not like probably about like a month ago now, because they had a sale. Oh yeah, for the Halloween sale.
Oh
And,
yeah, okay.
my wife and I have been playing it a little bit. It's a pretty fun game.
Yeah, I've never played it. Scott, my buddy Scott's really into it.
I was huge into Harvest Moon back in the day,
Yeah.
so that's why I got it, because I'm like, dude, this is like Harvest Moon on steroids.
It is. Another thing they talk about in this article is, so if you purchase the 64 gig Steam Deck, the original size of the OS would have been 24 of your 64 gigs.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it would have been a
Sounds
pretty...
like Windows.
Yeah, really. You know, I remember that was like always a thing. Like when I worked at Best Buy, people would buy like PlayStation 4s and they'd get like the 120 gig hard drive or something, and then they'd only have like 60 gigs of it left or something.
Yeah,
They'd be like, "What happened? This is obviously broken. Like it says 120 on the box, but there's not 120 in here." And you're like, "Yeah, well they're not accounting for the OS size.
A lot of crapware on there." Oh man,
yeah, it's crazy. But much like a PlayStation 4, they also point out in this article that you can, or most likely we believe that you can change out the hard drive of the Steam Deck, although Valve highly recommends against it.
Yeah, I've heard conflicting stuff on this. I've heard that the lowest end one doesn't have an NVMe slot at all.
Yeah.
I've heard that it does. I don't know. I don't know what exactly it is, because in this video here that they have here, this is them taking apart I think it's the 512 one. So it does have an NVMe. So we don't really know. We haven't really taken apart one that doesn't have the NVMe. So I don't know if it's even going to have a slot.
That's why I hesitate too, is because I'm sure that the two larger models have it, but I don't know about the smallest model. But we'll find out, because I got the lowest model, so we'll find out. I'll take that bad boy apart.
Yeah, I think you'll have a decent time with the SD card. As long as you get a good enough SD card, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah. I watched some videos of there's somebody on YouTube. I'll have to find it and put it in the show notes. I'll make a note.
Is that the guy that does that did the test of the SD cards?
Yeah, there was a guy like running
on the laptop.
Yeah, the guy, he puts SD cards. He puts like Doom on an SD card.
Yep. I was gonna watch his video. I just never got to it. Like I said, I haven't watched YouTube in a while.
Yeah, it's one of these things where it's like on paper, like, you know, on paper, yeah, it seems like a huge downgrade. But then whenever you see it in practice on a handheld 720 screen, oh well, in his test he was not that way. But whenever you see it in action, even in whatever test environment he had, like it seems to run fine, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's what I'm banking on. I'm banking on it because I figured even if I got the largest size, I would still either have to only install 1 or 2 games at a time, because games these days are like some of these
huge.
CRPGs are like 100 gigs, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, no matter what, I figured I was going to be doing the SD card thing. I just don't think there's any way around it. So that's why I just went ahead and opted for the smallest.
Yep, I think you'll be satisfied with it. Like I said, as long as you get a decent enough, you can't buy some Seagate. SanDisk, like, you know, $5 one.
I'll have to buy.
Terabyte.
I'll have to buy like a SD card for like a 4K camera or something. I'll have to get like a really high
actually,
end.
I heard that they have SD cards that are actually built for operating systems. I don't know if that would be a decent thing for gaming because obviously an operating system is much different than a game.
Mm-hmm.
And also
but it's probably made for operating systems because of the way the file access works. So it could be similar in that way.
That's exactly what I was gonna get at next. I was gonna say that the only game this is gonna affect is like a open world game where it needs to constantly load, which is a lot of your games that you play.
Yeah, a lot of the games I play. I wouldn't be playing those.
That's where it's gonna.
Yeah, the handhelds though for me are probably gonna be like Pillars of Eternity, games like that. I'll probably be playing a lot of strategic games. I don't see myself trying to play Final Fantasy 14 or anything like that. Although
right.
It might not be as bad as you think because they do this kind of phasing thing where like you're sharing a zone map with other players, but it's not like WoW where it's like you're like on an entire continent that has to load, you know what I mean?
Okay, so it's not so intense.
Yeah, that's why they get away with better graphics too than games that do that.
Oh, okay.
So according to The Verge, although this is also reported, I think the original report was from ffxiv. I think The Verge just reporting on the ffxiv article. I'll link to both in the show notes. But we have Amazon Luna runs on Windows, and yet it's hiring Linux gaming engineers.
Interesting.
Yep. So it looks like Amazon's cloud gaming service Luna could be looking to move to a Linux model. They even talk about running their games via Valve's Proton. Is what's making this possible. I don't know if Amazon would be the type of company like Valve where they are contributing back to this project and like sort of making like I feel like Valve has been like such good stewards to this project that they've just made like Linux gaming better just for their investment into it. I don't know that Amazon would be the same type of thing. Like I think they're probably just going to absorb whatever Valve puts into it. But it is interesting that other companies are looking at this and probably looking at the Steam Deck and deciding actually to move from Windows servers to Linux servers. Because this article doesn't necessarily give any hints as to what their real reason might be, but you could speculate that it's just not becoming worth. It's quickly becoming not worth the investment to do all this on Windows. Because you got to imagine the server side, the distribution side, all the things that make this possible for people to connect to it and use it around the world is harder on the Windows side.
Right.
And it's becoming easier and easier to run Windows games on Linux. There's that sort
just
of
condense it all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's becoming that's really interesting. And also, I wanted one of these Luna controllers. But I was wondering I was wondering if it would work with Valve and Proton, and I guess it will. If they're possibly
thinking so,
I would hope so. If they're moving all their stuff to Linux, then I would hope that their controller would work.
I know it looks so nice. Like I don't like the PlayStation style controller. I like the Xbox style. So this one is like perfect for me.
It's very Xbox style. I like I do. So whenever I did console game, I had a PlayStation. That was my console of choice. But the Xbox controller never bothered me whenever I would use it at other people's houses. Although I was more used to the PlayStation, but I really wanted one of those Valve controllers. And
oh yeah, me too. I've always wanted one of those. And then they discontinued them.
So this to me is kind of like it's kind of similar to that. It doesn't have the whole touchpad thing going for it, but that was more like the form factor of an Xbox controller than a PlayStation controller.
The only thing I liked about the PlayStation controller at all is when I would play Dragon Ball Z and you would need to spin the stupid joysticks. I would just take my palm and just spin both of them at the same time. Yep. That's the only reason why I like the PlayStation controller.
And you could put it on the floor and Psycho Mantis would move it left and right. I don't know if you ever did that. That's my favorite. I was going to be on a podcast a few weeks ago and I couldn't make it, but they were doing top 10 video game villains, And
Oh, that
my
was
number
good.
one was going to be Psycho Mantis. I mean, that was like the coolest thing when you were a kid. He would read your memory card and like tell you what games you've been
Yep.
playing. We talked about how they were adding in they're sort of adding in the framework for this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they've been working on this for a while, but it is now officially released. And they give you some, in this article, they give you some flags to run. So Proton enable NV API equals 1, turns it on, and NV API hack equals false. Okay, so you have to set both of those. So I don't know if you just set those. So like I have a game that has DLSS added in. So Baldur's Gate 3, their most recent patch, they added in DLSS support. So can I just make sure that I have this version of Proton and have, it's 638, by the way. If I have this version of Proton and I run those flags as my commands for starting the game, will I be able to take advantage of DLSS? Or is this sort of like the anti-cheat thing where like Valve has put it into Proton should the developer take advantage of it? But I don't think I don't think that's the case with this though, because this is just giving your graphics card the ability to utilize this already existing API.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So I think
that's how it sounds, because your graphics card already has DLSS enabled, obviously, and then Proton has it enabled, but Proton is just like a wrapper for a Windows game, so it's just kind of passing it through to your graphics card. So I'm thinking that you probably can just set these options and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a shot before the next episode. I'll try running Baldur's Gate with those settings and see how much it changes. Did I put this in or did you put this in?
You put this in.
Okay. I don't remember reading this article though. So, Steam Deck handheld gaming PC poised for big streaming gains. According to a new Steam update for the Steam app, Valve's next line of work revolves around improving Steam's remote play service within Linux. The update comes as Valve prepares the Steam Deck and its proprietary Linux operating system, so this prep work will likely benefit forthcoming handhelds. The update greatly improves video acceleration API, hardware decoding on Linux, the touch controls. Okay, where is this talking about the remote play? Ensure that remote play works well within Linux. I must have added this to the show notes, and I never went back and read this article, but sounds like just more good stuff from.
I've played with the remote play, and yeah, the Linux version needs work because it can, if you use a Windows PC and you stream your game to a Linux PC, as long as you have good connection, you're fine. Now, if you try to stream a Linux game from a Linux PC to another Linux PC, then you start to have major issues. I've really tried that, and it just, I don't know what's wrong with that, but there's something just not right in the transfer, because it drops out and it has low not bandwidth but latency. It has high latency, and it's just not definitely not good. They need to work on it.
I've had mixed experiences with the remote play, and now that you say that, I would venture that the times that it's worked well for me, it was exactly what you were saying. The sort of the server PC was a Windows PC, and I was playing from like a Linux laptop or something like that, and that worked well. But I think Linux recently, since we've moved to this house, I've tried it a few times from my Linux gaming PC to a PC hooked to the TV, and it was like never any good. And you're right. I bet that was the difference.
Yeah,
I can't remember, but I bet that was the difference.
I tried doing it. It wasn't it was a lot better than Linux to Linux, but I did try it with a bunch of different OSs at one point, and finally I got to Chimera OS, which is basically steamOS, the old version of steamOS, and they do add some things to it. And that worked flawlessly because I guess that's built, around Steam, so it's not like, wasting other resources on other things.
Yeah.
And that worked flawlessly from Windows to that. But other distros I had issues, like just not game breaking. It was just once in a while it would glitch out. But definitely, like if I were to stream from my Fedora rig right now out to my Fedora laptop and plug it into my TV, I can almost guarantee you that I would not be able to play a game.
Yeah. In the times I've tried it in the past, it's been the same. So maybe that's something they're working on improving. I could see.
I hope so. That would be amazing because if I can go all Linux, that would be so nice.
Yeah, the thing is, I could see. So I didn't read that article. I apologize, but we can just kind of speculate. I could see Valve wanting to invest in that remote play feature for a handheld device because it does give it more longevity. If you can play games using the performance power of your desktop, but on a handheld device somewhere else in your house, or within your Wi-Fi range, then that would be really good. The
only thing that falls down with is that the screen is still only 720p.
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah, but I think it adjusts. I think, and then maybe that's part of what they're working on. But I think because I know that right now I have the same resolution on my laptop as I do on my desktop, but in the past I've had lower resolutions on my laptop. And I think it asks you which way you want to do, whether you either want it to blow up and you have your screen doesn't match the size of your screen on your laptop, or it'll do the opposite where it'll reduce to your laptop size. But if you were to go in and look at your desktop, it's not the right size.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah. Well, and also yet again, what people forget is this is only an 8-inch screen, so. You're not talking, 55-inch, 1080p screen. You're talking a 8-inch 720p screen. So the DPI is much, much tighter than on a bigger screen.
Yeah.
But I can see I've been reading the article a little bit, and I can see what they're doing. They're kind of improving the, it says the video acceleration, which it's all video in the background when you're streaming. It's just straight up video like you would, watch a YouTube video. And it looks like they're including codecs H.264 and H.265 and VP9, which are really they're pretty much the best
the most
codecs
commonly
for streaming.
codecs.
Yeah. So I can see in here that they're definitely working on a lot of good stuff for this.
Yeah. You want to get into our tier list? See what do
it.
All right, so everybody's seen these tier lists. This one, let's see if I can find who made this one. This is 0x Wardo. 0x Wardo. I like that name. I sometimes name my characters in video games 0x80.
Okay.
Because that's the file format or whatever.
Yep.
All right, and see, you would know that if you listen to my Arch installation. Well, you did know it. You knew it even without having to listen to it. All right, so this tier list, they have from top to bottom. They have, by the way, I use Arch. That's their top tier. I thought about changing that, but then because you don't have to put Arch there. But it's a funny meme, so it's our S tier. It's so good, I'm using this on my phone. So that's that's the next one. And then installing this on my colleague's laptop. I would say colleagues, partners, wife, installing it on somebody significant to you on their laptop. Why'd they make this? Why'd they even make this? And then don't even bother. And I think the rule to this is so we're doing one tier list for both of us. So there's going to be some debate here, right?
Yes.
And we have to start left to right or right to left. I'll let that be your choice. And we can't skip. You have to place everything in a spot. And
Gotcha.
once you put it there, You can't move it. So you can't like put something down.
You can't go back and be like,
right? Yeah, you can't.
No, I forgot about this.
So like if we put Ubuntu in, don't even bother. Then we can't say, but it's better. It's better than Solus or something like that, and then move it. So you have to, wherever we plant it, it lives there now. This is my home now. All right. So you want to start at the right or you want to start at the left?
We'll start at the left.
Okay. All right.
Start with Arch.
All right. So we're starting with Arch. I love Arch.
Yes, you do.
I would probably, I know it's the meme at the top, by the way I use Arch. I would probably put Arch at the top.
Hey, okay.
I could consider it's so good I'm using this on my phone because there are grievances I have with Arch. But as a philosophy, my thing about Arch is that, like, if it's not perfect, it's because you didn't make it perfect.
Whoa, wait. If are we going by philosophy or how much we like it? Because that's two totally different things for me.
Okay.
Because philosophy, I don't care how it works. It's just how good it is for what you think it should be.
I don't know. I think that it has to factor in, right?
Okay, so we're kind of gonna like that kind of factors into it, but it's not gonna be all about
right. Yeah, exactly. Imagine.
Okay.
Imagine if this. Well, I don't know. I was just gonna say, what if this was a candy bar tier list, right? And we were ready. We wouldn't be like, I don't know. Would you? Would you be like, I don't like
that company Hershey. So
yeah, right. I don't like how this company treats its employees, so I'm gonna put it at the bottom. I don't know if that would factor in, or if you would just base it just on taste. I don't know.
Okay. So,
but I also think
this is different. This is different, though.
but I want to make this argument too, is that there was somebody that posted on either the Linux subreddit or the Linux gaming subreddit where they were saying that Linux users are like the vegetarians of the tech world, or they're the vegans of the tech world, or something like that. And I relate to that so much. Not only am I vegetarian, straight edge Linux user, so like nobody likes me. But I can see that like there is like a philosophical aspect of Linux users. Like there's Linux users that are like, oh yeah, it's great because it runs my web server well. And then there's Linux users that are like, it's great because it frees us from the tyranny of
Yep. That's exactly what I was talking about, Bio. Are we talking about that?
Right. Exactly. I think, dude, there's such a wide spectrum of that of that type of thing. I think you have to factor it in. It's not all.
So I will factor that in. I will
factor that in. Yeah, factor that in. Yeah. How much? Oh, here's another good question. How much does the community around this distribution?
Ooh, that really changes some of mine.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I'm with you there.
Now, you know what? To be honest, the communities nowadays are pretty much all good. Like, there's not really a bad community anymore. Like, I haven't heard of any like huge things breaking out in any community as of late.
Yeah, tell that to Linus.
Well, I don't factor him in because that was okay. Who doesn't update their distro or their computer before you install something? I even do that with Windows.
Yeah, I know.
I update everything. I cannot not update. I update every day. Every single time I go onto my computer, I am clicking that update button because I'm just paranoid.
Next episode, we need to do a full review of their progress so far.
Oh, dude, yeah, that'd be great. We should do that.
Yeah, I think here's the thing too is I think that the communities are so blended these days than like back when I first got into Linux, like the communities were way more siloed than they are now. Like these, I think I just think the internet in general is just that way. I think that these people just talk to each other more now than they used to.
Well, I'm just such a distro hopper that I've been on all of these community sites, except for maybe Slackware. But And I've never had a problem. I've not had one problem where someone just totally just ousted me because I was being, asking a stupid question or whatever.
Yeah. There's such a wide, I promise we're going to do a tier list in a minute, guys. There's such a wide range of that sort of thing too. Like, I remember when I worked at Geek Squad, whenever someone would come in with a problem, we called it Agent Google. We would always have to Google and try to research whatever the problem was. And I remember when people would come in and I would research a Mac problem, it was like every entry in the Mac forum was like them asking Apple for help. Like it was like, no, it was never anybody stepping in to say, oh, well, I had that problem, and so here's my GitLab repo where I worked on solving it, and this worked for me, and I think it'll work for you. Hey, if it does work for you, let me know. If it doesn't, maybe you can help me contribute to change it. Like that just did not exist in the Mac world, and it did exist in Windows, but nothing is like the way the Linux community is. So
No,
I don't know. I think across the board, they're all great. They're all great. All right, so we're starting with Arch. Man, I have to put it in either, by the way I use Arch, or it's so good I'm using this on my phone. I think it is at least it's so good I'm using this on my phone. How do you feel about that?
For you or for me?
We've got to agree. This is the Crowbar Kernel Panic tier list.
So we're both going to be doing one. Okay, now I get it. Okay.
Yeah. We're doing one.
So I would say at least it's so good I'm using it on my phone.
Okay. Well then, could I pitch? All right. If we agree that it's at least this good, could I raise you? By the way, I use Arch.
It is good. It is good. And if you factor in the philosophy behind it, if all of the companies on the world disappeared, there would still be Arch.
Yeah.
So that's also got to factor into it. So I mean, and to be honest, if you know what you're doing with Linux and you can theme stuff and you can go into the nitty-gritty, Arch is all of these distros. Arch could be any one of those distros because you can make it how you want it. Right. So I could easily change it to by the way I use Arch because it just all of the factors that add up to it is a very good distro. Like I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I think the only thing that could hurt it is the barrier to entry, but I think that the barrier to entry is high. I don't want to belittle it and say like, oh, if you can't install Arch, you're an idiot because it's not that. It's not as hard as you think it is. Like that's the thing.
No.
I think it feels like such a daunting task, but really you're doing exactly what you do in installing Ubuntu. Yep. You're having to manually do those steps, but it's the same steps. You're still making the decisions about, well, do I want to use this entire hard drive or do I want to break it up into partitions? Do I want to have a separate partition for my home directory or do I it's the same decisions?
Yep.
And guess what? People have those commands memorized enough that they can fumble through it, but 99% of people are following a tutorial. They're looking at the Arch Wiki just like I was whenever I made my video.
Yep. And sometimes you got to follow the Arch Wiki because it changes so often that there might be one obscure thing that you don't know about that's changed, and you got to, do this a certain way.
Yeah. And I promise the second, third time you do it, it's not as hard. I remember that. I don't even know how I made it so hard. I remember the first time I installed Arch, it took me like 2 weeks, and I don't even know. Now I look back on it and I'm like, I remember this having to make decisions, and like I remember like writing all my config files for X and
wow.
I remember having to do so much stuff, and I don't even know how I could not even do that today if I tried. I don't know what I was doing. I think the difference was I was not following the Arch installation wiki. I was following the entire wiki for each section. So I was like doing the entire wiki
that's a lot.
For file systems, and then doing the entire wiki for X11 and all that. But yeah, I can see
that taking a while.
yeah. And And there are people out there that have installation shell scripts. There's all kinds of
the
great ways
scripts
to
are
install
really
now.
nice. Like I used before they had their little installer, which is really not that great. I used a script that was an installer, and it was amazing. It had a lot of features. Like
Yeah,
you could do basically everything you did on your regular install on the command line. It
yeah,
was just a question and answer, you know.
yeah. And there used to
So yeah,
be,
Arch is definitely very
yeah,
good.
yeah, very good, very good, very good. All right, so next up, Debian, straight up Debian.
Oof. So for me, Debian and Arch are like so close. Only because of the philosophy
Mm-hmm.
and that if every company in the world died, there would still be Debian. You know, like that kind of thing. Like, you know, and
Did you know how they
it's
got
so
their
hard.
name? Did you know where Debian came from?
Yes, I actually do.
I never knew this. But it's Deb and Ian. It's like a husband and wife combo or something,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah,
He named it after his wife, Debbie.
that's wild. I never knew that.
Yep. I was so cool when I heard that. I was like, dude, that makes me want to use this
Yeah.
distro. It's just like it's like a distro made from love.
Yeah, yeah. One of my old coworkers told me about that. I thought it was wild. I personally have never, other than using the Mint version of Debian,
Mm-hmm.
what is it?
LMD, yeah.
LMDE? Yeah. I've never really just installed straight Debian because there's so many Debian like variants out there.
Yeah.
So many
Yeah.
great ones that I've just. But that's the thing is like, even though I would say most people have never installed straight Debian, almost everybody has used 100 Debian-based distributions.
Yeah, exactly. I really like the Debian installer. Like,
Mhm.
I almost wish that Ubuntu would use the Debian installer. I know it does look very old, but man, it is so feature rich. It's amazing. Like, I love that installer. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but yeah. So, man, I do like Debian a lot. I mean, I would say, especially since they do have a Debian version for the phone, I would say maybe it's so good I'm using this on my
Okay.
phone.
I I put it at a minimum installing this on my colleague's laptop.
Now, okay, so see, I have issue with that because
Mhm.
I would not install Debian on anyone's computer and just let them go at it because
Yeah.
this would be that
Well,
would be a disaster
I'm
because
I'm
it might not even work.
I'm kind of taking the categories over on the left as sort of just a meme way of doing the
Oh,
tiers.
okay, I got you. Okay.
Um,
Right. So like best versus worst. I
right,
got it.
exactly, yeah.
Right.
Um,
Okay. So yeah, I can give it that.
I think I mean, so here's the thing is I personally hesitate to raise it because I've never used just straight Debian,
Okay.
but I do see its relevance in the world, and I think it arguably could be even at the top. But if we wanted to go as high as it's so good, I'm using it on my phone. I think if I would agree with that if you did.
On the desktop, it's definitely not as good though. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's not as easy. It like
Okay.
Arch, I think, is actually easier to get going on the desktop than Debian would be.
I think so.
Because
Yeah.
only because one, there's a lot of guides, so
Yeah.
it's not hard at all, and two, there's more software.
Okay. All right. I say we stick it where it is. Then we leave it there.
I think that's good. Yeah. Yours brought it down, but mine raised it right back up to the middle.
All right. So the I think this is peppermint.
No, is that Deepin?
Oh, this is Deepin. This is Deepin.
No, I like Deepin. Deepin desktop is really nice. Like it rivals KDE, and KDE looks pretty good when you configure it correctly.
All right, I'm doing a double. Yep, that is their distro. So I know this distro, but I have never installed it.
I have never installed it either, so like I really don't know what to say. All I know is what their desktop looks like, and it really looks good.
Okay, let me look at some pictures. I think it's hard for us to rate it higher than mid-level if neither one of us has ever used it.
Right.
But
exactly. I think it's Debian based, so like you said, it's another
Yeah.
Debian base.
right.
But they do have a different desktop, which I can give them credit for because it's not easy to make a desktop, you know.
Yeah. I think we keep it at why'd they make this? Mostly because neither one of us have ever used it.
Yeah. Only that's the only reason. If it wasn't for that, I'd probably put it in the middle, you know, because it's probably fine.
Yeah, probably is fine. Elementary?
Oh, you mean the Mac clone? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding again. I'm
Yeah.
kidding again. Sorry, elementary guys. No, okay, so no lie, that is the best distro I've ever used on my Mac. Like, it works great. The
Yeah.
fans work right off the bat. I don't have to install any kind of driver stuff for my keyboards and anything like that. All the what do you call it? Function keys work fine, like for the turning on the screen brightness and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why, but they really have it tuned for Mac, and I know they don't like saying that, but it works great.
Oh yeah, it does look just like. It looks very similar to Mac OS though.
It's Mac-esque. I will say that.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. It's but it looks good. I think if I were to put a distro on my wife's computer, who does not want to run Linux, if I were to put this on there, she would probably think that it was pretty enough that she would stick with it for a while. Yeah.
Yep. I agree with that.
And I also have heard good things about its compatibility and stuff. So again, I think it is it's at least this mid tier. Do you think we should raise it, or do you think this is a good place for it?
So I've had good and bad experiences with it, and to be honest, the Mac on my MacBook is about the best experience I've had. And on other laptops, I've had issues with it, many issues. So I think we should keep it there because
Okay.
I can't raise it personally. If you think it's better than that, then
no, I agree. That's good with me. All right. And then,
by the way, I use Fedora.
we know that's going to be the don't even bother
don't even
tier.
bother that. Oh man.
No,
that's like Linus when they first asked him, like, "Oh yeah, you should use Fedora," and he's like, "No, I will never use that. That thing is garbage." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
It has such a weird branding problem. Yeah, people
It does.
People hate Fedora for some reason, but we both have had really good experiences with it. I've
had a great experience with Fedora. Like, I can't even. If you put Windows and Fedora on like the same laptop, other than battery life, which is all Linux distros, it runs the same. It runs so good.
Yeah.
The games run just as good. Like, and I've tried multiple distros on my laptop, and it's like Fedora just runs great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to install it on this laptop. I think I'm going to run Fedora on this sort of audio production laptop I've got here.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it a lot. I thought I was having a problem specific to Fedora, but then I kind of just discovered that it's just my USB interface, and I have that problem with every distro apparently. I think part of the reason, I think Fedora and Arch are both dangerous in the same way. They are so bleeding edge. Like they're both like where they try out new. Arch is just by the nature of it being like Arch is like you take it at your own risk. Everything
they just
is
throw
bleeding
stuff
edge.
at the wall and whatever sticks works.
Right.
You know?
Whereas Fedora is like this is like their proving grounds for Red Hat. So once Pipewire has lived in Red Hat, for 7 years or something, and they feel like it's stable enough to go on Red Hat. Did I say Red Hat twice? Once it's lived on Fedora for like 7 years, then it'll go to Red Hat. So it's like their farm team for Red Hat, basically.
But for being such a proving ground, it is so stable.
Yeah, and it's another one that has a good community too. I feel like
they have a great community. I love the Fedora community. Like that is one community that I have not seen or have had a bad experience with.
You know what it feels like? And this is kind of weird to say, but you know what Fedora today feels like Ubuntu in like 2007. Like like Fedora today just feels like there's like something new and exciting about it. Whereas Ubuntu is beginning, that community used to feel that way. And now it's feeling kind of stale.
And But I was just gonna say Linux has come to the point where, like, Fedora doesn't have a lot of proprietary stuff, but Linux has come to the point now that a lot of the proprietary stuff just works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't have any dispute with. I would put it at least the top two. I don't have any dispute.
I put it at the top.
I
I just put it straight at the top. That would be me.
By the way, I use Fedora. All right, is this is
that's KDE Neon.
Neon, yeah, Neon.
Yep.
I have installed this basically because back whenever Plasma first came out, I wanted to install all the Plasma updates.
Yep.
And from what I remember it being, it was decent. I've never.
Yeah, it is decent.
Yeah, I think it's the best Plasma experience, basically.
Well, I would say it's the most pure Plasma experience. I wouldn't say the best.
Okay. What do you think is the best?
I don't like Plasma's defaults. I think the best Plasma I've ever used would probably be, let's see here, I'm gotta think. It could be OpenSUSE. Or it rivals actually Solus. Solus and OpenSUSE have really, really good Plasma implementations.
Okay. I can't dispute. I haven't used either one.
But as far as like defaults go and the look of them, it's just really good. And I know like OpenSUSE is pretty stock, but they do just enough extras that it's like it works a lot better.
Well, who the hell ever wanted right click to open? I don't know why they thought, or is it single click to open?
Single click.
Yeah.
Single click.
That is the weirdest default setting.
I can't get used to that.
Yeah, that's so bizarre. Nobody wanted that. Nobody asked for that. But they did it anyway.
Different to be different.
Yeah. What I like about Plasma is all of the sort of integration, and there's like a lot of different like features and add-ons to it.
Yep.
And
they're just built in.
Yep. But there's a lot of setup to get there. Like it's like that desktop environment is like, do you want to spend 5 hours just tweaking your title bars?
It's like the difference between KDE Neon and Garuda Dragonized. It's like two totally different worlds, but they're the same desktop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So no, I think I
would keep it there. I as much as I don't like the default Plasma experience, I do like the distro, and I like the fact that they push the updates out and you get the newest stuff even though you're on a stable Ubuntu.
I think it's for some people, not for me. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I definitely, and see, here's the difference. Most of these I've put in the middle and then said, should we go up? My question here is, I put it in the middle. Should we go down? It's at least in the middle.
So
it's at most. It's at most in the middle.
Be used. Yeah, I don't think it should be used like as a daily driver. I think it should be just used for people who want to do Plasma development or who just want to check out the new Plasma stuff. So I could definitely bring it down.
They say for every one person that listens to a podcast, there's one person that does a podcast. For every one person that uses KDE, there's a developer of KDE.
I don't doubt that at all.
Is the only people that use it is somehow a developer of it. All right, so now we've got our bread and butter, our where we came from. This is our home base. Linux Mint. Where does it land?
Definitely a solid. It's good. It's so good. I'm using this on my phone.
Okay.
Definitely. I could easily raise it to, by the way I use Arch.
Yeah, me too.
I could easily raise it there because it is so just not even nostalgia for me.
Yeah.
Because it was one of my first like actual good distros per se.
Yeah.
But just the stuff that it gives you by default, like you have everything in your toolbox with that distro.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it probably. I feel bad if we put too many things all the way at the top, though. but I feel like it probably could be at the top because to me, I don't use it anymore because I'm just bored with it. Like, but like not in a bad way. Like it's just like I know what I get with Linux Mint. It's gonna,
Yep.
I'm gonna get a desktop that
If
works.
you need a
That's what
stable
I wanted
thing
to
that
do.
you just want it to work,
Yeah,
you put Linux Mint on it.
yeah. It's hell, it should probably be higher.
Yeah.
You want it? All right. So what do you think? Should we do? By the way, I use Arch.
3 for 3. 3 for
All right.
3.
All right.
3 in the
we'll do
middle,
3.
3 at the top. I mean, I don't know anyone like other than people who have gotten bored with it and decided to move on to something else. I don't know of anyone who doesn't like it, like who hasn't liked it at some point.
I think the thing about Linux Mint is I remember the criticism. There was an article written a few years ago that we covered on the podcast. The greatest contribution to the Linux desktop environment from the Linux Mint team is Cinnamon. And the argument is that the time that they spend developing Linux Mint, and resources, they could spend developing Cinnamon. Because do we still need a Linux Mint in a world where, every distro has a checkbox that you can install third-party drivers? Like there was a time where Linux kind of filled that need, or on Linux Mint kind of filled that need. And does it still serve that same purpose, or is nowadays it's just kind of this? It's the distro that people use. I don't 100% agree with that argument that like they shouldn't be developing a desktop because they're taking away from developing Cinnamon. We don't necessarily know that if the Cinnamon team didn't have Linux Mint it's sort of like what Fedora is to Red Hat. Like if they didn't have this distribution they could use to promote their desktop, like would they be as successful with Cinnamon if it wasn't for Linux Mint? I think that's a question that's impossible to answer. We don't know.
To be honest, I think that they have so many good developers on the Linux Mint team.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't matter. Because I think they can do such good work that they would just end up spending less time on the desktop on Cinnamon and just use their free time versus spending more time on the distro as a whole. And I feel like they add enough good stuff to Linux Mint versus Cinnamon. Like it seems to be very balanced as they move as they have moved on.
Yeah.
That it justifies the need for the whole distro. Not to mention, I've had things work on Linux Mint that no other distro other than Fedora has worked out of the box.
Yeah, so maybe they still have that same original need is still there. But yeah, I mean, my argument, I can understand that argument that this guy posed in this article. I don't have the article. I know the guy's name, but yeah, my argument is that like they need that user base they get with Linux Mint. To develop Cinnamon.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. I mean the things they've added into Nemo just because they knew that their users of Linux Mint wanted those things. These are I think it's a necessary
I agree.
Mutual benefit.
Benefit. Yep.
Manjaro. I like Manjaro. I think I probably would put it as high as It's So Good I use this on my phone. I think I like Manjaro a lot. Yeah,
I do too. I don't even know what to say because it's the Linux Mint of Arch.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, they do a couple of crazy different, a bunch of different desktops.
Yeah.
But other than that, it really is. It just throws everything in the kitchen sink in there. And
it's really nice.
Good.
It's really nice because it's Arch, but it's got it's kind of Arch with a few guide rails, like it's easy to install.
Oh yeah.
They also their update cycle is different. You're not getting immediately everything as soon as it comes out, but it's still much, you're still getting, brand new packages. It's still way newer than most other distros. And it has the advantage of the Arch community, in that you can still use the Arch user repository. All the
Yep.
Arch wikis still work for it, but then you also have this kind of more noob-friendly community within the Manjaro. And I don't mean that derogatory. I just mean like more new user-friendly community. Sometimes when you
Yeah.
ask questions in the Arch, because here's the thing. I get that I get that the trope about like the Arch community is not 100% true. And there's a lot of people that apply even that trope to the entire Linux community, and that is definitely not true.
Right.
But there is some truth to like if you go in the Arch, if you ask a question on the Arch forums, a lot of times their answer will be, well, here's the section of the wiki that applies to that. And it's like, well, if I understood that section of the wiki, I wouldn't have needed to come here and ask the question, like,
Yep.
like obviously this is not clicking with me,
Right.
no matter how many times I read it. Whereas with Manjaro, they kind of have a more of an understanding that like, okay, here's where it's at. But maybe here's how it's more relatable to you. Like, maybe just reading it is not enough to understand it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I don't even know why I don't really use Manjaro much, but I don't.
I don't use it only because I've had intermittent issues with it. Not like anything game breaking, but just things that for me don't work. So I was just like, I don't really want to use this as a daily driver, but I can see why they made it, and I can see it's a good gateway for Arch, to be honest, because it's like if you see like, oh wow, this is what Arch can do, man, I'm gonna go try regular Arch to see how I can build my own thing,
Yeah, but could it also be a double-edged sword because
the lazy man's gateway.
well, not just that, but I think a lot of times people this goes back to our first conversation. I think a lot of times people see that barrier to entry to installing Arch and they think it's going to be so hard that they go the route of using somebody's custom installer, or they go the route of installing an Arch-based distro. And a lot of times Arch-based distros are made by small development teams that are trying their best to match as many possible scenarios as possible, that they end up installing extra stuff. They end up having, issues in their installation process because they're trying to account for all these different, well, if it's this, then install this. If it's that, then do this. And in the end, it ends up borking things up and making it harder or a worse experience for a new user than if you had just went through the Arch installation process, I don't think Manjaro falls in that category because they have a much bigger development team. But
oh yeah, they do.
I'm leery of a lot of
they
the
actually have a
Arch-based.
company behind them now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So SUSE baby.
Oof. So SUSE for me is definitely on the middle there. It would definitely fall there. It would be higher for me, to be honest. It would be probably up by Manjaro at least.
Okay.
Because the thing with it is even more bleeding edge than Fedora is. Not with what it uses, because like Fedora uses pipe wire and stuff like that, and SUSE, as far as I know, does not use that by default yet. But the packages in Tumbleweed for SUSE are newer than in Fedora, because they're the as soon as it is released, it basically goes through like maybe like a week of testing. Don't quote me on it, but it's not a lot of testing, and they just release them,
Yeah.
And it's stable. And I've never had it break. I've actually brought out a laptop that I had SUSE on for like 6 months, and I did an update, and no problem.
I haven't used it in forever, and I think the time I used it, I had went to my first Linux convention, and I was just trying out every little CD, because back then you still picked up CDs. I was just trying every CD that I got, and I think that's literally the only time I've ever. And I doubt I even installed it. I probably just booted to it and tried it. So yeah, I'd have to go on your judgment. So you think it's so good? It's I use it on my phone, or do you think leave it at installing it on my colleague's laptop?
Think since you haven't used it, I would say that. I think I think you would like it for the fact that it is so like fresh packages and it's stable and all that, but I don't know if you would like it because of the way it's set up per se, especially for gaming. Like it does take quite a bit to get gaming
Yeah, it uses
efficiently going on it.
its package managers like Zipper or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yep, it uses Zipper. Yep.
Yep, I remember learning that in my. Oh, sorry, you said leave it here. I remember.
Yeah, I would
that
just
in
leave
my
it there.
exam preparation, but I've never actually used Zipper. So Pop OS.
Don't even bother. No.
Really? I think Pop OS is at least
no,
this high.
I would say Pop. Yeah, it's got to be there because it's yet again another like not Linux Mint clone, but Linux Mint-esque because it adds the extra stuff on top of it, and now they're trying for they're gonna try to make their own desktop. I mean, that's just a hearsay right now. It's not really a thing, but but they're using GNOME right now, and as far as I'm concerned, it works pretty good for what they've done to it. The add-ons that they've added to GNOME to make it better.
Yeah, no, I
think
I used it for a long time.
Yeah, most of the add-ons they have, most of them, I would say should be in default GNOME in general.
I do like their variation of GNOME, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a solid place for it.
Don't ask Linus.
All right, this is Linux from scratch, or is this Slackware? What is that?
I think that's Slackware.
Yeah, I don't know anything about either of them.
I don't know anything. I've never used Slackware.
I've only heard people talk about it. Doesn't it have like kind of quippy
Yeah, I think it insults you like when you screw up a command.
Right. Yeah, I think it like has like kind of quippy comebacks. Or something like that.
Something like that. I know. One of the distros do that. Oh man. But yeah, I've never used it, and I actually think it's fitting that don't even bother. And probably some Slackware users out there that are going to disagree and they're going to never watch us. Whatever.
I doubt we'll get any feedback. I don't think there's many Linux. So for one thing, we don't have. It's not like we have a huge.
A huge
audience. But
audience.
Even if we did, I just think statistically, I don't think there's a lot of Linux gamers out there using Slackware.
No, definitely not. I don't think there's any.
And then we've got Solus. I have never used it. I've heard mixed things about it.
Okay, so Solus. For me, it's a really good distro. It just lacks now Flatpaks and Snaps and such have voided the gap, but it lacks packages in its package manager, and it lacks a lot of features in its package manager because they have their own package manager that they've been saying for years now that they're going to revamp. And I know there are a small team, and I'll cut them slack for that, but they've been saying they're going to revamp it, and it hasn't happened yet. So I don't know. I mean, for gaming, it's really good. I shouldn't say it used to. It is still good. I have used it recently, and I mean it has a lot of stuff installed by default for gaming. I don't have to do much setup for it. And like I said, the Plasma version of it is amazing. Looks so good. I'm very what am I going to say? Like
torn?
It's actually like kind of like a medical thing for me where I need a dark theme for my stuff. And because I get a headache if I'm watching a white screen for a long time. And their dark theme is so thorough on all of their distros that it works amazingly. You don't even need the to make your screen look orange so that it doesn't hurt you for the blue light and all that. You don't even need so dark with their distro, but it's not so dark that you can't like read text and stuff like that. Like it's very fluent, but yeah, I really like the distro. I do. And to be honest, it's the fastest install.
So it sounds to me like you're almost talking it up a level. You think it should go up?
I do. I know. I know we have a lot there, but
Yeah.
there's so many good, like, just on the fence good distros.
Yeah. I think it kind of speaks to where we're at in Linux right now, where everything is just like everything is at least okay, you know.
Yeah.
But everything also has like a quirk, you know. There's something
Yeah,
I can
that's the
think
thing.
of.
Yep.
Yeah, there's something I don't like about every one of these distros.
Right. Yep.
But I've been trying to make the desktop Linux thing work for so long that I can say that it is so much better today than it ever has been.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everything has a pretty decent barrier of like, well, it'll at least do this, you know.
Yep.
All right, so now it's apropos that we ended on Ubuntu. This is the Linux distro.
Is there a trash can here somewhere?
Oh, I feel like you've been thinking about that the whole episode.
Wait, there's a poop emoji. Let's do it. Can we move the poop emoji onto the symbol?
Yeah, you had a really bad experience with Ubuntu when we tried it this last time. I did not have a good experience, but I didn't have as much trouble as you did.
Okay, so I installed it again after that, and I kind of came around to it a little bit. And the main reason I did was when I installed my Nvidia drivers, it actually used Wayland by default, and that was really impressive to me because I was like, wow, that's amazing. Until Fedora did the same thing. So now I'm just like, don't care about Ubuntu, Fedora all the way, Red Hat. Our Lord and Savior Red Hat.
Yeah, but we can't. So the thing is, though, is you can't say Ubuntu's garbage.
No.
And because, I mean, Linux Mint.
Yep. It's Pop OS.
Like,
KD Neon.
Yeah, we can't say that they're profiting, downstream from Ubuntu. And then call it.
So what you're saying is there should be like a crown at the top, and we put that in the crown.
No, I wouldn't say that either. I think there has been a fall from grace on Ubuntu, but I don't think it's necessarily on the. I don't know. It's hard to describe what I think the problem is, and I guess if it were easy, someone would have solved it.
I think it's just the natural progression of things with every company, with every distro. There's always an upward swing when it's kind of a slow tick right off the bat, and then it starts to gain, and then it gets to be like a plateau, and then depending on how things go, it either drops dramatically or it stays at that plateau for a long time until maybe something, some competition comes in that they see, ooh, that we can improve on that, and then they make it better than what the competition has. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that it used to be they were the trendsetters, and if I mean, I never can remember if it was Ubuntu or Fedora, but I know that I at least was aware of Ubuntu at the time that I first installed Linux, and I installed both of those around the same time. But like, you used to have install parties where people would, have LAN parties and just install Ubuntu,
like pass around an Ubuntu disk.
Yeah,
there you go.
Like Ubuntu, it was like just this exciting thing. Like, it's wait a minute, this is not Windows or Mac.
Right, yeah,
this is Ubuntu, and it's
not a text command line.
Right, it just seemed innovative, and I think that maybe that naive world is just long gone.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said the naive world is long gone.
Yeah, we know now. We're more aware. Even people that I'm introducing to Linux for the first time, there used to be back in the day, it was like, well, you give them Ubuntu, and then they'll learn from that and then go to something else. But now I think there's other distributions I would give them that are easier to use, more user friendly than vanilla Ubuntu. But just like we said with Debian, you have to acknowledge its place in the world.
Yep.
So
yeah, like I don't think I would take any flavor of Ubuntu and just give it to someone I know. I would pick either Manjaro or Linux Mint or something to that effect. Zorin OS. I wish
Pop.
Zorin was on here. I love Zorin OS.
I think most, like it just in general, if I'm just thinking about most people, Pop OS would be better than.
I agree with you, except for if they're a Windows user, because it looks so different than Windows. It would be a huge.
Yeah, but sometimes So you got two types of users: someone that doesn't care and they just want something that replaces Windows. Maybe give them Linux Mint. But then you got users that like they're looking for a change. They want it to feel new and exciting, which is the way Ubuntu used to feel to me. I think Pop OS fills that void.
Yep. I would agree with that. Yep, because there are people looking for different things. Definitely, yeah.
But neither of those distributions could exist without Ubuntu.
Nope, definitely not. And not all of these, except for 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, without
5
Debian.
Would be without Debian.
Yep. Yep, that's true.
You know, so it's just like
standing.
It's like I always said. There's like 5 distros. That's it. And all the rest are derivatives.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I think that is an episode. It was a pretty fun one. Yeah, this was a really fun one.
I had no idea how that was going to go down, but I like what you did.
Yeah, I think it turned out good. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I really like the podcast downloads. They just happen. I don't understand where those people come from, but people just, that's the way it's always been for me for every podcast I've ever done. People will download podcast episodes. YouTube is so hard. So like if you're listening to this and you don't watch us on YouTube, I would just encourage you, just please go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like we really want to do more video content and try to, promote that. But we'll always keep audio at the focus and keep the podcast as well. So we just appreciate that support. All right. I guess that's a wrap.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Oh! I had the idea I wanted to give you. I wanted to give you an idea for the fantasy. Okay. So you've heard of fantasy football.
Yes.
Heard of fantasy. I've even seen where they've taken TV shows and done fantasy leagues out of a TV show.
Okay.
Where you set up a point system based on, I did one for The Walking Dead one time where you picked your team of survivors, and then based on how they did on the show, you had like a thing. I want to do a fantasy distro league. Or maybe it's a fantasy. We need to we got to figure this out behind the scenes. But I want to do some sort of fantasy league where we pick either a distro or like a project or application, and then we figure out how maybe they get points based on the number of milestone releases, or we figure out some way to measure this, and then over the course of 2022. We'll have like a draft day.
That is really good.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
We'll have like a draft day where we'll draft our team of open source projects, and then over the year we'll check in every couple months and see how they've done.
Almost like a predictions episode, but like
more
in depth. I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
we need to doing this.
Yeah, we need to figure this out. Maybe we can do this next weekend or something. We'll do our draft pick, where we'll pick the projects. But anyway, so we'll figure all that out behind the scenes. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Peace.